So, first question is, Frank, you do cardio 5 times a week. How many times do you lift? Well, I lift 5 times a week too. So it's a lot of work, you know, it's like 3 hours that I spend at the gym. Like if you include like driving to the gym and shit like that, 3.5 hours, you know, a day you spend, you know, working out and looking cut. So like, it's a lot of effort, a lot of time put into it. And my routine is 2 days push, 2 days legs, and 1 day pull. And John Hollywood has this program called Hyper Power Program, the Power Hypertrophy Program, where he incorporates both heavy lifting, 1 to 3 reps, and speed, and hypertrophy. So you get a little bit of everything, basically. There's a speed day where you sort of go really slow on the eccentrics and then come up really fast, so 65%. And then the last set of that, you go pretty heavy and go to failure, or you still do it fast but go to failure. And then you have the usual hypertrophy work, like 3 sets of 10 reps. Usually 20 sets per workout is probably, you know, the prescribed, you know, give and take. And then there's a heavy day followed by the same hypertrophy stuff. So 5 days a week. And I mean, when I cut, it's really important to lift heavy. Like, that's when you don't lose muscles, when you lift as heavy as you can during the cut. I mean, you don't want to go to failure too much, especially during the cut. Like, John told me not to even go to failure that much, except for when he prescribed it, it'd be like, well, last set of this to go to failure. But give and take, during cuts, I'd go to failure even less, because your body can't really recover that much from the, you know, deficit in the calories. How does it feel to become Zyzz/Jeff's side now that you're aesthetic as fuck? It must feel nice to mindfuck people effortlessly with just a body. Well, to me, getting shredded is kind of like mindfucking myself more than anything else. It's like when you strip away your fat, it's like you're also stripping away the layers of your being, your existence, or maybe your mind, and it's just like, so when you get shredded, you peel off a part of you, and your bare minimum exposes itself. Like your core self becomes externalized, you know, without, you know, covering up by fat, quote unquote fat / bullshit, symbolically and literally. So I encourage everyone to try to get as shredded as possible, at least once in their lives. I know, you know, some people think, you know, getting below like 8% body fat is unhealthy, but just do it once and see what that does to your life, you know, your ways of existence. I think there's one thing I realized from getting really shredded and still having that physical health, having that vitality to feel alive, you know, to feel normal, not like starving yourself or like torturing yourself. I could look shredded and still feel really euphoric and feel really good about just life in general. I feel like my consciousness and my mind went through a transformation as well, as I mentioned. And just by looking like aesthetic, if you walk around, you know, doing cardio, it's like a drug in itself to look really aesthetic. I mean, I didn't know how to put it in words, but this guy who commented on my video sums it up pretty well. He said, quote unquote, when your physique is almost too perfect for yourself to perceive reality, it becomes unreality. Not a false reality, but even more truthful reality. Almost like when you're so sure of yourself that you have less going on in your mind, to the point that you can shut it off and penetrate other humans' consciousness as soon as you make contact. It's a truly beautiful experience inside and out. See, this is why I make this video, is that some of the stuff that you guys throw back at me, you know, like stuff that you guys share, posted, wanted me to share, look at, it's like mind-blowing. So it's like, I really like how this channel is, it's like my Facebook page, it's like a little community where people share ideas and having dialogues and, you know, improve on each other's mental aesthetics, you know, improve creativity and transformation of consciousness and the body, of course. But it's all together, but it's great. Keep sending me your shit and your thoughts and stuff like that. I really like it. This is an interesting question. How many weeks, Frank, and how was your sex drive at the peak of the cut? And are you currently having any sex or masturbation? Has it been affecting your body at all? I remember you said something about enhancing your body and mind through NoFap. Like here, let me see if I can see this. Basically, yes, I went through a phase where I didn't fap a lot. Like I fap maybe once every 2 weeks, once a week, and what I realized is that it's always good to go back and forth between the extremes. You know, it's always nice to go on your life cycles. It's always good to deload. You know, it's all about deloading and transcending. So I'm not really doing NoFap. Actually, I'm fapping like, you know, pretty regularly now, and having sex too. So, and my sex drive, I think it's a little lower on my cut. Yeah, I feel like I had way more sex drive during the bulk, especially my dirty bulk. I feel like when I was on my dirty bulk, I looked and felt like my mind, if you can externalize my mind and put it on the table, it will look like a fucking, I'm not trying to be racist here, it's not a racist statement, it's a purely visual statement, okay? It's just what pops in my head, okay? I feel like a black woman with pubic hair growing out of her entire body and just dripping wet. Really horny to be fucked. I feel like confused, I feel very testosterone driven. And when I'm on cut, when I control my diet, when I eat clean, my mind feels like a 14-year-old angel, a virgin. And for NoFap, I feel like when you go on the extreme, if you fab a lot versus not fabbing at all, it's pretty much the same. Because when you don't fab at all, it's like scar tissue in your mind, like your sex drive and your dirty thoughts and your desires sort of just builds up, and then you start to think about sex more than if you just fab. And that is where you reach a point of diminishing returns. And that is just as good or slash as bad as just fabbing a lot. So I feel, what if I were useful? It's not fab too much, still fab. It go back and forth between that and fab, but still don't fab too much. You know, so I mean, don't fab, but don't do it occasionally. In one end of the extreme is when you have your, you know, minimal fab, okay, whatever, minimal fab, and then you have your fabbing. So deload between the extremes that are not too extremes. That's what I'm saying. So when I'm fabbing, I feel like my mind gets clear too. Sometimes after I fab, I get really creative and really like motivated to work out because I got something out of the way. I feel cleansed, and I feel like a lot of times it's just like, you know, you cleanse your mind and new things can come in. And when you don't fab, it's like, okay, you hold that desire in, and that desire is inside you, that thought is inside you, it can mutate into other thoughts, and then you can sort of control it and mold your desire and turn it into a creative thought or a piece of art. So, like I said, it works both ways. Just don't go to the extremes. Okay, last one. Okay, this is actually a comment that I found that was pretty interesting that I want to sort of dissect it a little bit. This person said, it feels like the girl is taken away from the video. Your words exhibit deep, abstract thinking, while the imagery is shallow with sexual exploitation. There's nothing great about body worship. Fitness is about discipline, not self-pleasure. This miring gain shit you've been pulling is pretty lame. I want meaning. Well, here's my answer, I guess. I'm a deeply superficial person. I like contrast. I like paradoxes. I think that's the biggest mindfuck, because when you think someone is something, but he's actually something else, and vice versa. So you can't really pin him down. You can't put him in a category. That's what I want. You know, I like doing a lot of similarly really superficial, shallow things. Like, I love going to the nightclubs. I love the nightlife. I love picking up girls. Not in a deeper connection kind of way. I like, you know, just picking up one-night stands and sometimes having sex with really mindless girls, or in a situation where it doesn't require a lot of thoughts and deeper connections. Because, you know, sometimes when you have sex with girls that are too intelligent or is thinking about too much stuff, it's like the consciousness gets in the way, and it's like too loose, too lubricated, and it's too slippery. And I like just, you know, just a flesh. You know, sometimes you have no mind, it's just a flesh. It makes the flesh that much more plump, that much more pronounced. It's all a game of material, and I like that. Flesh. I love listening to pop music. I love Beyonce and Justin Bieber, but I also love classical music. I also love Bach, Tchaikovsky, Brahms. I also like reading philosophy. I wait in line to go to class, and when I wait in line, I fill my mind with Freud and Darwin and whatever, Nietzsche. I mean, my explanation is pretty straightforward, you know. Number one, doing these things, you know, seemingly normal everyday things that normal people do, are the only times where I can feel like sort of a physical connection, so I can feel grounded. So I don't have to feel abstract all the time. You know? So I can feel the connection with people, with real people. It's almost like I have sex so it's the only way I can connect with people. So I can feel normal, to put it short. And so I can stop thinking. I think it's all, again, I can't emphasize this enough. It's all about going back and forth. I'm sort of like going through this phase where I'm display my body a lot. A lot of people are complaining. You know, I'm going through this season of the body. I'm cutting, I look shredded, I look aesthetic. Why not use this body to, well, just enjoy life or to create an experience? And when you empty your mind, that's when you can refill it the next time. And then when you feel it, you can empty it again with new thoughts of it. You know, just like a reload kind of thing. So when I have sex, it's the only time where I can just stop thinking. And I don't want to say stop thinking, because I look at sex and I look at, you know, going to the clubs is something that's a very meditative experience. It's meditation, like Osho says, sex is the human being's first glimpse into a meditative state, where you're not thinking, but you are thinking. Your thought is an empty, blank slate kind of thought. And I love that kind of thought. I love that kind of consciousness, where it seems like you're not really thinking, but you're perceiving everything around you. You're being completely receptive. And that point, but that blank slate consciousness point is when you're actually the most creative. That the potential for creativity is actually the most profound and the broadest, right? That's when the infinite possibilities can arise from that blank slate. And when I feel like when I'm having sex, when I'm going to the clubs, I'm just being completely quote-unquote mindless, it's actually a profound mode of consciousness. The second explanation of why I do these things is that not everything is about deep meanings, you know. Not everything is about, you know, going as deep as possible and, you know, trying to put like words and try to explain everything. I think going back and forth between meaninglessness and meaningfulness, you know, depth and shallowness, mind and body, is the only way to experience life from all perspectives in the fourth spectrum kind of way. You know, I think it's such a mindfuck to like act and look like Zyzz and Zyzz kind of character, you know, act like a complete mindless douchebag or a meathead, at the same time display abstract thinking or creative abilities, you know. That's how you break stereotypes. That's how you mindfuck. And for the mind games video, I feel like it's just a way for me to use my body as a vessel or like an avatar for like you guys, the viewers, to fill in. You know, it's like a video game scenario where like the direct and immediate visceral experience, where the form and the meaning, quote-unquote, content is the same. And I find such pure sensory embodied experience to be just as important state of mind as your philosophical ponderings and abstract thinking. You know, body worship is okay. You can worship the body, you can act like Jeff Seidel or Zyzz, as long as you worship the mind the same way, or sometimes worship them together, bring them all into one. Okay, last question. Who is that girl in your video? Well, she is actually one of my subscribers. She's been watching my videos for a while, and she decided to just you know, fly over and hang out with me and, you know, make videos together. And she's one of the nicest people I've ever met, really based. And then, you know, she's motivated by a lot of books that I'm reading, and I made her like read I'm a Strange Loop, and she's like really interested in ideas and consciousness. And she gives me a lot of ideas too, just by talking to her. You know, I was always writing things down on my iPhone, just I was talking about a lot of ideas. And she sends me links all the time to like videos, just watching, you know, stuff that she's learning. So it's, I guess that leads to the last question people have been asking me. Frank, how do I become your apprentice? First of all, you have to be a female, you have to have a vagina, and you have to be at least 5 years younger than me. You have to squat, you have to lift, you have to read books, to be aesthetic in the body and the mind, and you have to be willing to take my physical calm on top of my mental calm.